Por muitos desgostos que possamos ter, valores mais altos se levantam. E o valor mais alto que se levanta em termos futebolísticos chama-se Benfica.
Espero que nadie se ofenda, pero hasta que no estás aquí dentro no sabes la grandeza de este equipo.
Hey everybody, welcome to another Untitled Benfiquismo podcast. This time we're starting a new segment, episode 1 of Meu Benfiquismo. What is that? Well, it's going to be a conversation between myself and many Benfica fans, near and far, whether they speak English, whether they speak Portuguese, whatever their preferred language is. Today we have Mario with us from Canada. Mario, welcome.
Hey, how's it going, buddy? I was gonna ask you to do French, but it's okay. I'll keep it English.
I'll get a dictionary out.
Yeah.
I took 7 years of French in high school, in middle school and high school, so
you'll probably be better than me.
It's probably different than I don't know if we learned. I don't even remember if it was French Canadian, if it was French from France, but I've forgotten a lot of it. So
assuming it was probably proper French.
Yeah, who knows? So we're gonna have conversations with various Benfica fans, get an understanding of where did it all start, what made them become Benfica fans, and just kind of getting some details in terms of favorite players, favorite uniforms, etc. So it'll be kind of an open conversation, and we're always looking to ask more people to join and have this conversation and share their thoughts. Again, being a Benfica fan, both of us are outside of Portugal, so it's a very different mindset. We have almost like, for me, and it's in a biased opinion, but I feel like we have like a stronger connection in a sense because we're so far, right? And we don't have the ability to take a drive and go to the stadium, right? So I feel like it's more like emotional to us, but again, it's a biased opinion. We're living outside the US or outside of Portugal, so it's different for us. So let's get right into it. First one's an easy one. Take us back to the beginning. So going back, when can you remember, when you first were kind of exposed to Benfica? Was it a family member? I know Portuguese families, they tend to kind of push the young ones into a team. What was it like for you?
Yeah, mine was on my old man's side. He is a Benfiquista. We came to Canada quite young. I turned 7. And so in terms of memories, we had these like Portuguese cafes we go to, and it'd be smoke-filled cafes. You could barely see the TV. It was just pure cloud of smoke. And he would just take me along, and he'd tag around. And when you're little, you kind of in and out of it. Like you semi-pay attention, and half the time you're playing on the table with the other kids. So, the foosball table. And it was just kind of, you grew up in it. And then I grew up for a period of time because we moved a bit in Canada where I was in an area that had very few Portuguese for a bit of time. So it was just that at home thing. So on the weekends, my old man was watching it, or he went to other cafes. I'd get some exposure, and then that'd be it. Then finally we moved to a city that had a bigger Portuguese population for like 11th grade. And started bumping into other Portuguese people, and they'd be like, "Oh, tu és português? Ah, that's cool. You like Benfica? Ah, surprise, you do too, right?" You know what I mean? It's odds are they're going to be a Benfiquista, and they're going to be odds Sportista, right?
Yeah.
And that's how it is. And if you find a Portista, holy cow, you don't see many of those. At least back then, you didn't see as many, right?
Yeah.
And that's really, I felt like it was kind of that mid-late high school and kind of post-secondary that you kind of started getting more into it, right? And watching more of it. And it just became more and more fanatical. I think the point you said at the beginning, for us living worldwide, it's kind of Benfica is more than just a club. It's kind of your heritage, it's your connection to home, your legacy, your family, your culture and history. Like when I have saudades about Portugal, Benfica is part of that mística of the country, right? And so when you meet other Portuguese people, like if I go traveling to the States or other parts of Canada, I wear a Benfica jersey all the time. Yep. All of a sudden you get a guy that looks at you and goes, "Hey, Benfica," and I'm like, hey. You do like a quick you see each other, you both smile like idiots, and you go. And I'll go to my wife like, "I'll send to you. Benfica all the time."
Yeah.
He lives around here somewhere. We're everywhere. I don't know. It's something that just like it's it's hard to explain because yes, I know that exists in the guys that live in Portugal.
Yeah,
but it's a bit different, right? It's kind of here. It's like,
and it's funny you mentioned the whole the connection with Portugal, and I have a tattoo on my back with the Benfica logo and then the Portuguese flag around it. and it ended up making it to. It was on the Avala magazine 4 or 5 years ago. They pulled it off some website on the internet, and it ended up being on their newspaper. And I remember reading some of the comments, and people were like, "This person must be outside of Portugal because immigrants tend to associate Benfica with Portugal."
Yeah.
And it's funny that you touched on that because, like, I don't know, I feel like that connection always kind of goes hand in hand. Like when I think of Portugal, I think Benfica. When I think Benfica, I think Portugal. Like it just, I don't know, it makes that emotional connection so much stronger for me, it seems.
Yeah, and growing up, like I remember in the '90s, and whether it be early or late '90s, and people go, "Oh, you're Portuguese," and back then, when it came to the World Cup, it was Brazil. Because Portugal wasn't there. That's the honest truth, right? And so
Almost there.
yeah, almost there, but it was like we weren't doing as much. Yeah, there's these young kids coming up that were supposedly a golden generation, and they're coming up, right? But when you kind of talk about, oh, how's Portugal in the sport? I'm like, well, let me tell you, our history, man. Eusebio, Benfica, it all like it seemed like Benfica would tie everything together. Like the nation's highest success ever was this Benfica core that helped bring it right to the semifinals of the World Cup, and he always had these connections. It was just funny. My old man, he's from Angola, right? And during the war there, he would tell me how like they'd be fighting. Oh my God, right? It's a war going on. But if it was Benfica versus Sporting, they would actually go like a temporary lay down your arms.
Really?
Yeah, it was kind of like because everyone within that place was at a Portuguese, right?
Yeah.
Because Angola, for whether back they were part of Portugal, so Mozambique. Yeah. It was like hundreds of years of connection, so they're all Portuguese, and it kind of the game's going to play. They knew between a certain time slot, okay, break time, watch the game, then get back to, it was just kind of a thing. It's like you just know it was kind of connection to the homeland, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. Thinking back on, again, like your upbringing, your connection to Benfica, what would you say is the one, like if I had to say, when I say memorable match, what's like that one that automatically comes to your mind that you don't even have to like think about?
The one that comes to my mind, it's more recent just because it was pretty cool. I got to go, it's kind of like a back-to-back thing I did. I went to when we won the Tetra. I was in the stands to watch Guimarães.
I'm jealous.
And it was also my son's first game in Portugal at the Luge. I got to take him, and I was like, the kid got spoiled rotten. Like,
that's awesome.
He's a little kid. How old was he? He was like 5, I think at the time, 5 or 6. And he's like, all the commotion outside, and it was me kind of, he knows we like Benfica. He likes watching. He's a kid, likes his cartoons, likes his video games. I'm not saying he doesn't care. He knows, Benfica time. You guys go do your thing, me and my wife. I'm going to go screw off and play.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I saw him like just captivated, like all the crowd outside the stadium, the flares going off, the shenanigans. And then we got inside, and holy cow, what was the damn scoreline? It was like a 4-0 or 5. It was a high scoring game against Guimarães, that game.
4 or 5, I think.
Yeah, and it was just like goal after goal, and we were right I got front row because I didn't want anyone in front of him because he's a little guy.
Yep.
And we were a little bit to the side, so you're close to like the no names, but you're still not in the full commotion. And he's seeing, the crazy people over there. He's seeing how animated he was, and then the coolest thing after that, like we celebrated, and then we got back to Canada, and we were like, I'm talking to him a few weeks later. I'm like, he really loved going. He brought it up. I'm like, oh, you want to go again? He's like, yeah, I want to go again. I'm like, oh, fuck. Awesome. I'm accomplishing like parenting.
You did your job. There you go.
So he's like, hey, when can we go again? I'm like, well, I can't go fucking every weekend. I'm here in Canada. So I'm like, what can I do? Right. So that was the end of the season. I'm into the summer. So there's an MLS game. Let's go watch TFC.
Yeah.
So I take him TFC. He's bored out of his mind. He's like, this is not the same. And I'm like, I know it's the local thing to have here. Yeah, but they're not singing as much. There's no fire, and the game people were throwing fire at other people. I'm like, yeah, they were, they don't allow that here. And it's like, he's like, it was okay, but when can we go to the actual real one? And I was like, I did it again. Not only did he fall in love, but he fell in love. Like, it's all like, that was cool. And then
I'm impressed.
And it was like because I went to that span. I was there for a few weeks. I saw that, and then I saw the Taça Portugal final. That one I went by myself. I sat with the ultras, the no names, and that was just a pretty wild ride. I remember nothing about. Well, I remember parts of the game, but it was just pure smoke. Like I barely saw half of the game. It was just bananas. But
I can only imagine.
It was a fun experience.
That's definitely a good favorite match, especially having been there. That's on my bucket list too. I've been to the Benfica Stadium. I've watched the game. I watch them every time they come here to the States. But I want on my bucket list is to be there for the celebration at the Marquês.
That's the one thing because it was an all-day event. I went from morning till night. Then it takes forever for the actual title to come out. Also, that's like a half hour plus before they even come out.
Yep.
My poor little guy was dying. Like he was dying. And then we get outside. By the time everything was done celebrating, we get outside. It's packed. The kid wanted. It was like already past midnight. He wanted to go, and I thought, oh man, it's gonna take like 3 hours to get the Marquês at this rate. I was like, okay. So, while they're celebrating the Marquês, he was a little grumpy. I'm like, what can I do to make you happy? He's like, can we get a Happy Meal? And I remember sitting at a fucking McDonald's. I put in the GPS. I got no idea where the fucking McDonald's is at that point at night. I find, thank God for the internet, at GPS, I find a McDonald's that's open. And I remember sitting there in my Benfica gear. He's there. I'm tired. He's tired. He's eating a Happy Meal. And I'm like, they're fucking at the Marquês right now. And I'm eating a fucking Happy Meal with my son. This is kind of messed up. It was fun, though. It was great. It was great to see that. I got to see the title. I got to be part of the celebration. And I've had friends that have gone to championship games. And they always tell me the hardest thing to do is to actually go watch the game. If you stay in the stadium and enjoy it, it's very hard to make it to the Marquês. Because I found like a big chunk of the stadium actually emptied out before the title came out because they know if they don't leave, they won't make it. Yep. And so a good friend of mine, he went to the last time they won 2 years ago, and he was telling me that, yes, he saw it there, but he says next time, now that he saw it in the stadium, and this next goal is watch it at a bar somewhere and then be close to the Marquês. As soon as they win, he can just get himself a spot. Because by the time you get there, it's almost over because the people actually camp out there, right?
Yeah, makes sense. I see on to the next one. I see that you're wearing the new jersey.
I got the new one.
I haven't gotten mine yet. It hasn't come in the mail. What would you say is your favorite uniform since you've been following the team?
That one, I have a couple. The one I will say is my favorite that I've worn thin is they had a commemorative one where it was when we won the second European Cup. It's just the Two Stars. Okay. It has a gold emblem. It's actually last time they did a gold emblem, but that one kind of made a bit more sense. On the inside of the kit, on the back, it has an imprinted image of the team, like the Zebi and all them on there, which is pretty cool. It has a collar. It's neat. And then the other one, I got one of the retro ones from if you ever saw them make those throwback ones from when they won the European Cup. Yeah. I love that clean look. Just the logo, the kit, classic kind of
red
look
to
to
the
it.
white.
Yeah. Do anything that's I rotate every year. I buy the home and away every other year kind of thing. But yeah, I tend to love kind of like that. It's more like that European throwback, right?
Yeah, I always like the classic. I like how they try to mix it up, but I would love if they could just keep it like the home is red, the away is white, and then if you want to make a third one of a different color, that's fine. But it drives me crazy when I think the last time we had a third kit was 8 years ago or 9 years ago or something. Yeah. But I just hate when they we had the yellow away kit, we had the pink away kit. It drives me crazy. Can't we just keep it simple, the white and the red, and let's just go from there?
Yeah, and I've always joked, some people go, oh, it's a modern game. I'm like, yes and no. I pick on Ajax. Yeah. Ajax is always simple. Mm-hmm. You look at Ajax every year, their home kit it's Ajax. There's no debate. Yeah. Maybe the tiny little tweak. That's it. I mean, you could do it, and their fans buy it, but I think as a club, we're not harsh enough with Adidas because I think they use Adidas also, and they're just kind of this is what we want. Yeah. This is what you make. Have fun with the away or the third kit, and that's where you can play, but leave the home alone, right?
Yeah, and I guess while we're on it, before we go to the next one, what is your thought on, I know this year's kit brought a lot of uproar, the home kit with the emblem. What is your take on that? Does it bother you?
I'm kind of mixed. I just said a moment ago, I like the gold emblem for that. But I feel like if you're going to do something, attach a meaning. You know what I mean? Like they did it for the European Cup. It was the anniversary. It had like they did really neat decals inside. They did really neat things with the kit, right?
Yeah.
It was a throwback. This year, it's like, oh, you're doing a gold. Why are you doing it? Just because. There's like no rhyme or I rather the traditional emblem. 9 times out of 10, if you are gonna do something, oh, it was for Zebu's something for him or something for this or that, right? It's the, if there's a type of milestone, that's like, okay, fine. It's a dedication. I can be okay with that. But yeah, no, the changing of the emblem, and it's not just that, is they kind of did it across the board. Like anything Benfica's been doing with the pressers and everything else, they're using the monochromatic.
Mhm.
And I don't mind it on an alternate kit. I don't mind it kind of that whatever. It's a funky style. I think it's neat, but I like the proper emblem for the proper home kit and also the official press conferences and the banners you're going to put up. I don't know, man.
Makes
I'm an
sense.
old man.
I mean, for me, I'm indifferent about it as long as we win. But I can see both sides of it, right? People who are more attached to it, but I agree.
And I say this, I say it initially seeing it being like, I don't like that much. But like you just said, as soon as I started seeing, I saw Darwin get that hat trick. You see these guys scoring goals with it, and like, I love this.
Yeah.
As soon as they're winning with it, it's the best kid ever.
Forget about it. All right. How about your favorite goal?
Favorite goal of all time for me is just because the emotion was Rodrigo's goal against Porto, that Eusebio game. My God, I burst out into tears. Like there's very few games where I just like I'm more like from his passing to that game and everything that Porto had screwed us up the ass up until that point, and it's like it felt like we had not done it in a long time, and then everything was against us.
Yeah.
And the way he did it, the passion, the scream, just the meaning, man. Just every time I see that highlight, like I choke up a bit.
I remember I lived at a place we weren't married at the time. I don't even think we were engaged at the time. Actually, we were engaged. And I had maybe like 10 people over my house, and we had the scarves out on the coffee table and all that stuff. And just the goal was like the game in itself was just so emotionally charged.
Yeah. All
and
these W's, everything.
Yeah. And I know that for me, like with his passing, like I didn't watch him play, but again, for me, like Benfica goes more than just a club and more than just a small emotion. Like I was impacted by his passing, like emotionally, like
Yeah.
it really, like I lost someone in the family. My wife will probably be like you don't even know the guy, like what, right? But again, it goes more than that. But just the match in itself was so emotionally charged, and when the goal went in, you got the sense of like the fans' reaction, like the way they reacted. It almost like came through the TV, and you're like, holy shit! Like it just grabbed me and like squeezed the energy out of me. So I agree. I remember exactly where I was for that goal, and it definitely, even watching the replays, it definitely hits you hard still.
Exactly. And for me, it's and everyone feels Zebia a little differently, especially the like we're the generation that we didn't see him. But I mentioned my dad was from Angola, and he used to talk about when he was younger and how he saw him, and it was kind of like a guy from the Portuguese colonies that came out of nowhere, becoming the biggest legend in Portugal, right? And my dad going through the civil war that happened there, it was not a nice thing that happened. And at the end of the day, he actually, when he finally immigrated to Portugal, he became quite successful. And it was kind of like he would tell me growing up that was kind of his inspiration was, he saw this guy that came out of nothing and became great, and he kind of used that. And he always kind of would tell me, no matter what shithole you are in life. And I remember when we immigrated to Canada, we weren't well off for quite a bit of time. It's like no matter how much in the dumps you are, understand that you can always be something, and that guy did it. You can do it, kind of thing, right? So it's cool. I don't know, man. And it was just the fans, the passion, and it was just kind of like I remember going into that game. I was an emotional wreck and just nervous at the idea that he had just passed away. Everyone was emotional, and here are these assholes that they love to stick it to us. And the poor teachers were, and I knew a few of them at the time also, and they're like, oh, yeah, it'll be an easy game. You guys aren't going to be focused. You're poor as ever. You're going to go rack up another 5-0 or something stupid, right? And when we spanked them, like literally spanked them, and it was kind of that goal from Rodrigo was like, God, such a relief. It felt like his passing was the opening of a new era for Benfica.
Yeah, I agree. Let's change gears a little bit. Let's go to the negative side for just a quick bit.
Yeah.
What can you recall as being kind of the most difficult moment as a Benfica fan that you can remember? And again, it could be a specific match, it could be a time frame that we went through that wasn't so good. What comes to mind for you?
Oh man, the one for me that's more recent is the Sevilla loss, just because
Oh,
you got this, as sports fans, we're easy to fall for curses and the idea of a curse, and I call it BS, and there's no curse. But at the same time, it irks you. It's in the back of your head.
yep.
And I had a buddy of mine that was a Chelsea friend I worked with at the time in Toronto. I was working in Toronto at the time. And I went to the final, we lost to them. It was a tight match. It was like, fuck. And then next year, hey, we're in the final again. And you're thinking, fuck, we're going to do this. And we got so robbed up the ass.
Yep.
And I was like, son of a bitch. It doesn't, like, if it was anyone else, they would have called that a million times on those penalties.
Yep.
And you kind of look at it, it's like, shit. Like, I don't know. It was such a deflating moment.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of sometimes, my two dreams I had when I was younger, one day to see Portugal win a major title and one day to see Benfica win a major European title. And thankfully, I've been spoiled with a couple lately with the European Cup Nations League. I'm happy. Okay, check. You guys did it. Keep it up, but, I'm good. I'm good. I don't mind more, but keep going. So the bucket list is just Benfica's missing. And it's kind of this thing that just sits on there. It's like, it just grinds at you. And I think in most, recent years with the kerfunkles we've had in Europe, it's kind of one of these things that just gnaws at you. It's like, it's a loss that will sit over you till you have an opportunity to replace it with something else.
Yeah, it sucks. Hopefully Jorge Jesus maybe on the third time's the charm.
That's my hope, man. That's my hope.
I'm hopeful that my prediction is that he'll get us to a Europa League final this year. That's my prediction.
That would be nice.
So
As long as he stays in it, this team has potential, man. You just got to get more. Just needs more minutes. We needs more time with them. And as long as we stay in the tournament, I think we'll get better and better as the season goes on.
I agree. All right. Worst signing that you can recall?
Worst signing. So, well, the one I think that always sticks out to me just because of the amount of hype on it, and even I just finished school. I had this job at this office. And they all knew, okay, I love Benfica. None of them were soccer fans. They're hockey guys, right? And I remember I'm sitting in the break room, and I've been working, and I had heard about Freddie Adu signing for Benfica, right? So I knew about this, man. I knew about this. But all of a sudden, these guys come. It's like, hey, what's your team doing on the cover of the sports pages? Like, what's this? Because they're just hockey. They're just ribbing me. And I'm looking like, yeah, Benfica big time now. Hey, look, cover page, Freddie Adu. Suck it all, you hockey nuts. And then it's kind of like, oh my God, was that ever a disaster of a signing?
Oh my God.
The Pelé of America never did work out for us. And I think it was just all that momentum, all that hype. And the thing is, it's one of those rare moments where people that know nothing about Benfica looked at us and quickly forgot about us.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was the worst type of signing in my head.
Definitely a painful one for sure. Favorite player?
So that's tough. I always say Rui Costa because of just how he came back. You know what I mean? How he came back and he sacrificed wages, which we all as Benfiquistas say, oh, I would do the same.
Yeah.
I can't see Ronaldo going back to Sporting. No offense, but I can't see him sacrificing wages. And very rare do you ever see a player actually ever do that, especially in the modern game. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it wasn't like we were riding high either at the time. I always love him for that. You know what I mean? He's just a special guy. And just, and I just, in terms of I think right now that the team has struggled in recent years with a lack of passion. And I still see him as one of those emblems that brings that passion that he has love for the club. Yeah. So he always puts a smile on my face. And when they travel to North America, he's always coming over as an ambassador. And he'll grab a smoke with anyone that's outside of a hotel room with him. The guy's a nice guy, man. So he just carries the club well. So that would be kind of like more when I was younger. If I segue to like a more current guy that's playing, I love Bernardo Silva just because he barely played for us. Mm-hmm. And he's the closest thing to Rui Costa in my mind in terms of having that level of love for the club. Yeah. He played even less for us than Rui Costa when he was young. And I think the way he left was not the same. Rui Costa was like we had no choice. Bernardo Silva was almost like we didn't want him. It was like it was just terrible how it went. Yet he's constantly in the. If Rui Costa was in the social media age, I believe he'd be like a Bernardo Silva, where the guy's constantly on social media, shit talking Porto fans, talking up Benfica, and just loves the team, man. He just wants what's best for the team, and so I love guys that just bleed for the club. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he has a tattoo of Benfica on the inside of his arm.
Yeah, exactly, man. I love that.
He's one of us. He definitely is one of us.
Yeah, you know, if the guy never made it, if the guy for some reason never made it in the sport, he'd be one of the guys working at a cafe somewhere watching Benfica every weekend. It's just there's a fanatic with us in the stands. I love it.
Absolutely. Second to last question. All-time 11.
All-time 11. Fuck.
So since you can remember, right, who would you, if you had to make an 11 of Benfica players, who would you pick?
I was thinking that, okay, so all-time 11, that would be, okay, so I love the 4-4-2 setup. My two front guys, I don't know if they'd work well together, but I just freaking love them, Cardozo and Jonas, right?
Okay.
That'd be cool to see. I don't even know if this 11 works. I'd want Rui Costa in there. I'd want Aymar in there. It's got a hodgepodge. Let's play with no defenders and put some guys out there. I'd want Samo on there because I love Samo. Who else would I'm trying to think if I'd want to stick on the left, because we've had so many guys that I enjoyed Di Maria. Really enjoyed him.
That's a dangerous front six. You got Di Maria, Simão on the wings, Aymar, Rui Costa in the middle, Cardozo and Jonas. Shit.
Exactly, man. It's insane. It's insane. That would be great. In the back, I'd want Luizão as one of the center backs, just because of everything dedicated to us. The other guy as a center back, it would be kind of cool to have, in terms of one of the new guys, I'd say Ruben Diaz. Let's throw him as the one new guy in there. On the right back, yeah, you know what? I'd debate between a Maxi or a Nelson Semedo. I'd go Semedo.
Okay.
If he could have played more. I think the challenge is he didn't play that much with us, but it's kind of nice having those academy guys. Portuguese bias kicks in also. Left back, I'd throw. Man, it gets tough. I would say, if Grimaldo's in his prime, he's one of the best I think we've had in a while.
Okay.
What the heck did I use up here? I got guys for the 4 up front. I got the 2 in the mid. I got 4 in the back. I got a goalkeeper. That's pretty much it. A goalkeeper. Who would I pick?
We've had some good ones.
Yeah, we've been spoiled. And more recently, I find it's just I'd have to go Ederson.
Good choice.
So I'd go. That'd be a fun team, man.
That's a good lineup right there.
That'd be a wild lineup. Sounds all get along, but yeah, it'd be great. It'd be great.
All right. And now let's get a little bit more in the feels here. What does Benfica represent to you?
Yeah, it's to me kind of what we were touching at the beginning. My saudade de Portugal. It's kind of part of my identity. I've been fortunate enough that the girl I met here is Portuguese and she's a Benfiquista, and so we've gotten to see her, the love for the team together in a sense. Yeah. It's kind of connected through my family. It is, one of my biggest connections with my old man. No matter what's going on in life, that's the one thing you could shoot the shit and talk about. You could be having like the end of the world happening, and then I'll say, "Hey, see Benfica on the weekend." Oh yeah. We'll be. It's my connection to the community. Like, we got a few Portuguese clubs in town, and when I do anything, it's usually, pop by one of the sports clubs to grab a cafe or one cerveja and watch a game once in the blue moon. I watch it mainly at home nowadays, but I enjoy watching it more at home these days with technology. Yep. But every so often, even though I think they have the shittiest connection, like the quality is even less going there because they're out in the country. Yeah. It's just the camaraderie, right? That connection with it, right? And the thing is, the family I've been able to build from a friendship standpoint globally. Like I have, through my days as a younger guy, I don't know if did you ever know Planet Benfica by chance?
Yeah. Yep.
So I moderated their website when I was younger. Got to meet those guys, and the guys that would run it behind the scenes would travel to all the away games in Europe. and I got to know them, and they'd share their photos and stories of me, which is so cool. And from there, I built more friends over time. Alfredo, who runs the Benfica podcast, when he decided to start it up, he kind of reached out to them to see, will you guys share this thing I'm trying to start? And I remember I kind of set up a special section for him there, and got to meet with them, it's the club itself has opened friendships and people all across the world. Like I do Benfica After 90, and Alex, which is an amazing guy out in California. I would have never met if it wasn't for Benfica, right? And he's the coolest guy ever. I love Luigi out in the UK, an amazing buddy that he's on the show on so many occasions, and so many people in Portugal. I got like my Benfica wall here, but I'm full of all the other club scarves all around that I've gone all over Portugal. I got most of the first, second, and a good chunk of the third. Yep. I got to go to Madeira one day, but in my travels, every time I go to Portugal, it will be, I love going to a town and seeing one of the clubs, but then finding the Benfica connection somehow.
Yeah.
And the coolest thing is when you get away from the top tier clubs and you go to the lower tier clubs. And I have a habit of just, breaking into these places just because I just walk in and I go, my broken Portuguese. Sou do Canadá, eu estou aqui visitar, eu tenho essa coleção de todos os cascóis, de todos os clubes, eu quero ter o teu clube não tem, and the guys, the Trofense is like, oh, you have a collection in Canada, you want our club. He gets all excited, so then he'll invite me in.
Nice.
And the amount of times I've gone into like actual clubs and offices, because I don't know what the fuck this is. My wife laughs at me because she doesn't understand how I get into half these places. And really, it's just me being, I don't know, I just chat and shoot the shit with people, and I just love shooting the shit about the sport.
Yeah.
And in Portugal, the big three are so dominant that when you go to this lower tier, everyone's affiliated with one of the big three to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And like, I remember, what's the one? Okay, in Lisbon, there's an Atletico in Lisbon. Yep. They're in the third division. I remember, I'm like, I've heard of this Atletico. I want to go visit like one of these trips. I'm like, so I went by. It was just like, I wing half these things. I just kind of show up. I don't even call anyone. I just show up. And like, they had something with Mulidade away. So everyone was kind of away for this thing. I'm like, oh, cool. So their lodge was closed. Good, small club. I'm like, I just want to take visit your grounds, just whatever. And I'm talking to this guy. He's like, and I start telling him the story and shooting the shit with him. And after a bit, he's like, are you going to be around for a bit? I'm like, yeah, I'll grab a cafe around here. He's like, hang out. I'm like, okay, fine. And I guess the president of the club in his shitty little car pulled up, opens his trunk, and has a kashkal for me, right? Because he's like, because I say I'm mainly there to collect for my collection. I can show you photos. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't expect it to come. So, ele disse, estavas aqui, tu és benfiquista, eu sou benfiquista, eu sou sócio por quanto tempo? He's like, the president of Atletico is benfiquista. The whole board of directors are all benfiquistas, right? Nice. And like long term. And he was like so excited. This guy from Canada, I got to go. I don't know. It creates this connection, which is so cool to see when you go to a Casa Benfica somewhere around the world. But yeah, like I tell you, being... especially overseas, there's a different level of a feel, because for the guys that live locally, they love the club, but it's kind of in their backyard. And I don't want to say they take it for granted, but they get the pleasure of having it there all the time, right? And when you have the pleasure of having it all the time, it's nice. But for us, it's like we're like a kid that our parents deprived us of chocolate, and we get one chocolate bar once a year. It's like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, right? We get that golden ticket, we go bananas.
Yep.
So they're dancing in the snow and doing stupid shit, right?
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah, and so that to me is just this funny connection that the club has a way to do it. And even when I introduce them, I meet people. I'm in business here in Canada. If I ever get personal with people, we start chatting. About you. It's like, well, if you ever got to know me personally, it'd be Benfica. That's my thing. Like, it is my identity, right?
Yeah.
And I love it, man.
Perfect scenario, right? Look at you and I, right? Like, we met on Twitter.
Yeah.
Right. And again, I agree. It just opens other doors to being able to just have conversations and meet new people. And it kind of ties into like the whole plan for this segment, right? Like, I want to meet new people, meet Benfica fans, but understand like where did it all come from, right?
Yeah.
Like, you explained your kind of upbringing and with your dad being in Angola, right? So like that connection is going to be very different from other people, right? And understanding what was it that brought them to Benfica, right? And what kept them there up until today. So it's cool to see how like everyone's stories are so different, but we all kind of end up at the same place.
It's like that. All these unique connections, very unique, but connected in so many different ways. And I've done this like once in a blue moon. I call it Benfiquistas worldwide, but very similar, same concept. But to me, it's just the ability to talk to someone somewhere else in the world that you never sat down with. And we do this.
Yep.
And I tell you, if I meet you in person, the desire for me to buy you a beer and shoot the shit with you goes up like ridiculously.
It's crazy.
Versus if I talk to someone else and I spend like an hour with them in life, I'm a nice guy. I get along with everyone. But it's just a different feel. Like I'm like, and I go back to those Planet Benfica days, those guys, helping Alfredo out. Alfredo, then he had me come on a show way back in the day when he was like really, really new at it. And that's the first time I had that type of exposure. And then I remember it was him that started sending me, because he'd do the Twitter handles and shit like that. And I didn't do Twitter. And he started sending me emails. We'd be like, I tweeted something and someone said something about you. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, who the heck's talking about me? I'm like, fine, I'll do it. Because I'm a stubborn old Portuguese guy, right? It takes me a little. So I get on this Twitter. And that's when I meet these guys from the amount of people in Fall River, which I had no clue in Massachusetts. And like your whole state it's kind of like here between Cambridge to Toronto, just a massive Portuguese population. And then getting to meet a guy from Florida. And it's a brother from another mother. It's funny. We kind of look similar. But it's just, I don't know, man. I tell you, it's a cool project. I love seeing. And the one thing I love what you're doing is like I just love the connecting of the more stuff that's out there. Some people have asked me for, there's a lot of Benfica content. I'm like, I love it, man. If there could be 20 more people doing it, because it just like we're very community oriented. Yeah. And I'm an asshole sometimes, and I look at the Portishas. You don't see that. They're just angry. No. They're just pits and vinegar. That's all they have, right? Whereas us, we're just always having a good time. Win or lose, you just kind of, man, it's just good.
It would be good to at some point, once things go back to normal, to potentially kind of, with all the context that we've established and the relationships, maybe look to do something where all the people that are kind of creating and publishing this content, maybe bringing all of those people together in one room, right? And just meeting, sitting down, having a conversation.
Yeah, shoot the shit. Be good.
I think it'd be a good experience for everyone.
Yeah, the biggest excuse we joke. I had a buddy out in Quebec that I met. It's funny. A quick example, and I'm sorry I rant.
No, it's fine.
Through all this, there's like years back. Again, I got on Twitter. This guy liked the Benfica podcast. His name is Kevin, and I got connected. Me and him would talk. It got so much so that we meet up because obviously he's in the other province, and whenever Benfica played in Toronto, he'd come down, and he developed a friendship to the point where I go to his wedding and shit like that. And there's a group of people that we've been able to build up that when Benfica comes here, I just love it, man. I think the last game AC Milan when I went down to your neck of the woods, man, it's just I just swear every year as I get older, I don't want to call it a regret. I'll call it an envy. The young kids today that are young Benfiquistas, like 17, 18, growing up in this environment, they get to kind of connect with everyone. Yeah. And they get to do all this shit. Like for me, it was like later in life that I got to do this connecting, because that's when the networks of social media really brought the community together, I find. And it's amazing. But this next generation coming up, it's really cool how quickly they can pick up. Like when I was their age, I wish I had this type of access to Benfica. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very. I remember trying on a 56K modem, trying to find streams on the internet, which was like not a thing. Yeah,
it was tough, man. I swear the biggest thing I had to rely on was going to these little port. I feel bad. I feel that the modern technology, it's amazing. It's been the death of some of these local Portuguese clubs. There used to be a ton of them in town. They still exist, but they're like dive bars nowadays. Really? There's only like a couple good ones that I find, at least here, that are decent. And in Toronto, Casa Benfica is beautiful. They've done a good revamp of it, but I find there used to be, like in the olden days, whether it be the downtown strip in Toronto where you had Little Portugal, or the area I'm at, just more life at these clubs because you couldn't watch elsewhere. So it was kind of the community would gather there. Yeah, but it was like your very local community, right? Now it's kind of everyone went in their homes, or with social media, it's kind of exploded differently, right? So it's a bigger community. But yeah, man, I look forward to it. The biggest bucket list is getting together. I love getting together with people in Portugal, man, to watch a game. That's sick.
Yeah, I know we talked about it earlier. I have family in Toronto, and I remember when we were there, Benfica played Baitar Jerusalem.
Okay.
Can't remember what year it was, but I remember we drove up and down in Toronto. We finally found this place that had the game. I remember the outside was blue. It was like a long hall. It was dark in there. And at the end of the hall, they had like a massive projector. And
Okay.
I remember my dad, when we go on vacation, my dad is very like, I have to eat at a Portuguese restaurant. I'm not going to eat at an American restaurant. I need Portuguese food. I need Portuguese wine. So like we just drive until we found something. And at the time, there wasn't smartphones. You couldn't find the internet. So basically, you had to drive around and ask.
Yeah.
So I remember we finally found the place. We watched the game against Baitad. I think we won 7-1 that game. But funny that, it ties back to Toronto. And again, trying to find these places where you're going to be able to watch the game then were few and far between, right? And as like it became more of a thing right now, like you could essentially walk to any corner, at least here, you can walk to, if you're in Fall River, New Bedford, there's probably like 10, 12 Portuguese clubs there. Like every corner, there's a Portuguese club or restaurant.
Yeah.
So you can watch it wherever the hell you want. So it's very different, like you said, for the new generation to be exposed to it, opposed to us who are trying to connect to those 56K modems, trying to get on the internet for 5 minutes before your tia calls the house and kicks you off.
The love for Benfica got my dad flipping the bootleg satellite dishes back in the day.
Oh yeah,
or like the bootleg cable and shit.
Yep,
that's how you could watch Benfica. And I remember, like as soon as he found out, he's like, "Wait, how do these guys get the games?" He found that out. He did like stupid research. Wait, I want it. And then it costs money. So he's like, okay, if I buy a few of these, sell a few, I can pay for mine. The typical Portuguese way, right?
Yep. A lot of people did it around here.
Yeah, that was the way you did it back then, right? Nowadays, it's amazing, the stuff we have access to, but it's cool, man. I tell you, it is just wild. The tailgating here is different. Like the celebration here is fantastic.
Yeah. All right. Before we jump off, I guess first I want to just our social media. I got you on here, so we'll continue benfiquista@gmail.com if you want to reach out. If you're interested in doing something like this, having a conversation, reach out via email. On Facebook, we'll continue Benfiquista. Myself on Twitter, I'm Gonsalves10, Mario M.SLB. He also does Benfica After 90. Check them out on Twitter. They do a good podcast. They're on YouTube as well, so check them out. We'll continue benfiquista.com for our website, content in English, content in Portuguese. We'll continue Benfiquista on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. You'll get a notification. And on Instagram as well, we'll continue Benfiquista. So don't forget to check us out. And before we sign off, I'm going to do that game. So I'll pick two names out of the bucket. You tell me which one you'd want on your team. Again, this is Benfica players, mostly the big names going back. Maybe 98 is the latest. We'll do 5 of these and just have some fun with it.
Yeah, right? Go for it.
All right. So number 1 is Coentrão or Manuel Fernandes.
And Coentrão left on such a bad note that I gotta go. Well, man, I just he left such a bad taste. I know he was a good player. I'll go with well.
I would agree. He was good when he was there, but like the whole scenario with Samaris last year or 2 years ago.
With the pulling the pants and everything else and all the shit he did.
Yeah. All right. Round 2. Let's see. Saviola or Poborski.
Poborski?
Yeah.
That's what I'll go with. I don't have as many good memories. I have memories of him, but I wasn't able to watch many games. But it's a bigger way.
Yeah, I liked him. Simão or Nuno Gomes. Damn, that's a tough one.
Oh, caralho.
That's a tough one.
Caralho. I love them both, man. That's tough. Okay, if I had to pick one, I'll get murdered if I don't say Nuno Gomes, I think. That was my wife's favorite one growing up. Also,
that was my sister's favorite.
Yeah, it was all the girls' favorite one. That's why I shouldn't pick them. But man, all the guys liked them also, man. The fucking off strap on the hair and shit. You know what I mean? I'm gonna go. He was like Benfica's striker. I know he wasn't the greatest striker we've ever had, but he was like that one. Oh fuck, I love Simão. I'm picking Simão. I picked my all-time 11. I put Simão on that team for
all right.
I'm picking Simão.
Simão's locked in.
Yeah.
I would take Simão too. All right. Here's an old one. This one, Scott Minto. He was from the Graham Souness years, left back. He wasn't very good. Or Elder. If you want me to repick, we can repick.
Try to think back, Elder.
Elder.
Let's repick.
All right, let's repick. We'll
like this.
hash those. All right, we'll go Maxi Pereira
Okay.
or Matic.
Ooh. I'm gonna go Matic because I love that goal against Porto.
Oh, that volley!
I love it. Yeah, I love Maxi. I'll be honest with the whole.
I just hated the way he left.
I hated the way he left, but it was also we decided to let him go on a free.
Yeah.
And it sucks he went to Porto and whatever, and the shit talk.
Yep.
I hated Fabio more because he was just retarded.
Yeah, I agree. All right, last one. We got João Tomás or Michel Perdón.
Ooh, Perdón?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an easy one for me. Perdón. He's a legend. That guy was a monster.
I'll definitely go with him. I'm trying to remember. That's a fun. I like this game. I love this shit. It's actually a really good idea.
Yeah, I'm gonna add more names as time goes on. But yeah, I got there's probably about 60 names in here. But it makes you think, like, shit, who the hell, like, I like that guy, but then I like that guy. Which one? I don't know which one I'd want.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you start thinking, we did this like over a year ago, we did like, for the year 2020. Yeah, right. Yeah. Fuck, that 2020 sucks. But beginning of 2020, we thought it was going to be good, right? So we did a special. We went through like the decade and the top 10 players. And then I was kind of trying to pick like your favorite out of those top 10, right? Kind of thing. But yeah, no, we've been blessed, man. We've got a lot of great talent.
We have, fortunately. All right, Mario. Well, it was good speaking to you. It was a good time. Good to know you, kind of get your ideas where it all came from. This won't be the last time we speak, obviously.
Hopefully sooner than later, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we can sit down and have a beer together sometime.
Yeah, soon enough, man. I hope so. And yeah, everyone that checked this out, a big thank you. Make sure you give a like, subscribe, and check out all the videos this guy's posted, man. I love this shit. It's awesome.
Yeah, and don't forget, again, check out Mario on Twitter. Check him out on Benfica After 90 as well on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to them as well. They have some good content, some good conversations, some good laughs. I was watching their podcast last night, sitting on the couch laughing at Alex freaking out and telling us to relax and pump the brakes because it's just one loss. So yeah, these guys are good. They've been around for a while, so check them out for sure.
Less analytical and more shenanigans, but it's always a good time, man.
It's always a good time. Well, thanks for listening. This was Untitled Benfiquista podcast. We are on the Meu Benfiquismo segment, episode 1. We will be back again next week with another episode with a new guest. Again, if you want to join us, send us your information. We can have a conversation. Until next time, have a good night, good morning, good evening, depending where you are. And Viva Benfica!